Tuscany, a region of central Italy known for its beautiful scenery and historical cities such as its memorable capital, Florence. This city on the Arno is famous for its Renaissance works of art. Every year it attracts millions of art lovers with its many palaces, churches and museums. If you wish to get to know the other sides of Tuscany, not just the traditional tourist destinations like Florence, Pisa or Siena, you should rent a car because if you are mobile, you can really discover its peaceful places and wonderful landscapes. The impressive Tuscan landscape is an ancient cultural region that has been cultivated by people for many centuries. The archetypal small Tuscan villages, usually built on a hill, merge seamlessly with the scenery. At the very core of Tuscany, in the hills between Chianti and the branches of Colline Metallifere and Creta Senesi, lies Siena, a real jewel of central Italian Gothic. The small narrow streets on the sides of Campo Square account partly for the black and white city emblem and for Siena's nickname of Chiaroscuro town. Scuro, or dark, are the streets. Chiaro, or light, is the sunlit Campo Square. Palazzo Pubblico, a square in the shape of a shell, is paved with red fire bricks. The town hall dominates the square. The narrow town hall tower, Torre del Mangia, is 102 meters high. Its construction was so daring for the 14th century that its architects had to bear the financial risks themselves. The risk was worth it, however. The tower, in contrast to other Italian towers, still stands straight, and the Campo Square in Siena is one of the most beautiful Italian squares. Twice a year, it witnesses the famous Palio horse race. Thanks to its many narrow staircases, narrow streets, dreamy squares and distinctive houses, Siena still has a Gothic medieval atmosphere. Due to the fact that since 1959 cars haven't been allowed into the centre of the city, you experience only the jam of tourists who crowd into Siena, especially in summer. People can have quite different opinions of Siena's cathedral. Some are fascinated with its monumental marble facade, and some see it like expensive sweets and an unbelievable vanity, as one English writer put it. The cathedral is one of the best examples of Gothic architecture in Italy. Its construction started at the beginning of the 13th century, but was interrupted by the plague of 1348 and by wars at home, as well as in the neighbouring states. The cathedral was considered one of the largest churches in the world. In fact, its glaring whiteness doesn't seem to really fit the terracotta colour of the city, yet this is also one of the definitions of what Chiaroscuro town means. The town of San Gimignano, lying in the region of Siena, has a historical centre which is designated part of our World Cultural Heritage. The towers from the 12th and 13th centuries still form the definitive picture of San Gimignano, the Manhattan of Tuscany. Since such towers with their height were symbols of power, prestige and status, their size always corresponded with the egos of their owners. Thanks to money from UNESCO, the square at San Gimignano has been carefully renovated. Like no other place in Tuscany, the square enables you to imagine town life during the Middle Ages, although you must try and forget its 21st century visitors, of course. These gigantic witnesses of political power with a height of 70 metres reached the limits of structural possibility. Therefore, in 1255, the town hall tower was established as a norm. No other building could exceed its height from then on. Once, large families used to live in the towers in small and dark rooms with windows so small that they barely let in neither light nor air. Only when the defensive function of the building ceased to be important anymore did the residences get new Gothic windows. If you want to get into the genuine atmosphere of the Middle Ages, you can stop at one of the small hotels in the evening and enjoy Tuscan cuisine and the renowned wine from nearby Chianti. Pizza, an absolute must for all visitors to Italy. Pizza is made of dough with tomato puree, cheese and basil spread on it, and then baked. The list of ingredients can expand to just anything you like. Pizza was firstly food for the poor in the 19th century, which of course has become an incredibly popular international dish. The first pizza with tomato puree was made around 1750. In 1830, the oldest pizzeria was opened, which has made pizzas until the present day. The dough is made into the required form by continuous kneading. The brick oven produces very high temperatures for baking. You should set aside a lot of time for eating in Italy, as well as in other South European countries. The selection of starter, main course as well as wines, which complement all dishes, is almost infinite. A beautiful view of the town opens out on the square in front of the cathedral. The town with its majestic towers forms an impressive skyline in the middle of the Tuscany hills. Between San Gimignano and Volterra, the landscape is more modest, almost without vegetation, and the hills are split by erosion, the harsher side of Tuscany. The centre of the Etruscan town Volterra is also close to cars, a wise decision, because in this way you can feel the medieval character of the town. But there isn't any museum-like calmness in Volterra. There is an intensive life pulsating within the walls of the town. For the inhabitants of Tuscany, the many artistic treasures are an integral part of their everyday life. When walking around Volterra, you can find many peaceful places and streets which reveal the everyday intrinsic beauty of the town. At the northern edge of medieval Volterra, the well-preserved remains of Roman Voattaraia lie. The amphitheatre from the 1st century isn't accessible anymore, but you have an ideal view of it from the town walls. From peaceful Volterra we continue to the town of the Leaning Tower, Pisa. The symbols of Pisa, Campanile, Cathedral and Baptistry, tower high here on the Campo del Miracoli, the Square of Miracles. The whole square seems to be illuminated by glowing white buildings. It's not just coincidence that the facades with arabesques and other ornaments remind you of the Orient. The natives of Pisa knew Islamic architecture thanks to their commercial contacts with North Africa. What seems to be some kind of exercise is in fact a normal movement of tourists who are getting up close to the tower. Every visitor wants to get the best possible picture. Photographers turn into conductors when trying to take original pictures. Everybody tries to support the tower with their arms and legs. The tower was designed as a freestanding campanile of Pisa's dome. Its cornerstone was laid in 1173. A few years later, when only the first 3 floors were finished, the tower was already beginning to lean toward the southeast. Then the construction ceased for another 100 years. The next 4 floors were then built crossways in order to balance the leaning surface. The tower has 7 bells, but they don't ring due to the real danger of the tower crashing down. The tower is leaning because its foundations are deformed due to its weight. Pisa has the ambiguous privilege of being one of the most famous tourist destinations in the world. Everywhere you go, you can get kitschy souvenirs. Everywhere near the Campo del Miracoli, people try to make money on simply everything that can be sold as a souvenir from Pisa. Tuscan commerciality certainly finds its peak in Pisa. Therefore, if you really want to see Tuscany, you should find routes other than the normal tourist routes. To really get to know Tuscany, you have to see not only the main sites, but also enjoy the special atmosphere of the small villages and local scenery. Cassabuitoni lies in the middle of the Tuscany hills. This small settlement on the hills over San Sepolcro is a symbiosis of art, culture and cuisine. Several generations of the Pasta family lived in the neoclassical villa from the 19th century up to World War II. Mama Buitoni and her family set up a small shop with pasta and thus laid the cornerstone of today's pasta empire, which exports the love of pasta to the whole world. You take 100% wheat, flour and water, and that's it. You don't need anything else for perfect pasta. In the Buitoni factory in San Sepolcro in Tuscany, tons of pasta are produced every day. Forms make pasta dough into fantastic shapes: butterflies, farfalle, spirals, eliche, styluses, penne. There are almost 100 shapes. What stays the same, however, is the simply ingenious recipe for making pasta. Quality natural products, wheat, flour and water. Also important for the quality of pasta is the temperature, air humidity and time. If pasta dries too slowly, the taste deteriorates. If too quickly, the pasta falls apart when cooked. Even though pasta isn't handmade anymore and modern technology is used for its production, making pasta remains authentically Italian. People in Italy usually eat with their whole family and friends. If you are in the middle of cypress and olive woods, the food tastes so much better and you feel on top of the world. To celebrate, the Italians don't need any special event. Pasta and wine are simply part of Italian culture. Tuscany is also a wine region, and Leonardo da Vinci, who came from Tuscany, is said to claim, Happy are those born in the land of good grapevines. No other region in Italy attracts people as much as Tuscany, and no wine represents Italy as well as Chianti. There are two reasons why one should get to know this impressive, beautiful region full of culture. The Montalcino region was known for its wines as long ago as the Antique period. When Brunello wine became popular and its price increased in the 70s, production of the Brunello started to boom in Montalcino.
Questo è un suolo difficile, come si vede, con molte pietre, quindi
as you can see here, it's heavy soil with many stones, so it's not easy to cultivate it. Therefore, our main task was firstly to prepare the soils here for grapevine growing. Now the grapevine grows here wonderfully. Somewhere it was planted again, as in the case here. This is the famous Brunello di Montalcino coming from Sangiovese.
Sono già cloni selezionati che abbiamo fatto qui in azienda.
These are selected clones that we've grown within 10 years of hard work.
Che è durato 10 anni. Abbiamo preso
we use only grapevines of the highest quality.
Sotto il profilo qualitativo.
The Banfi grapevine farm is in the medieval fort up over Montalcino. It's definitely worth visiting because of the impressive historical castello, or castle. Banfi, lying between the two rivers Orcia and Ombrone, is to the south of Montalcino. The farm of 3,000 hectares of land exports wine into more than 50 countries. The origins of Castello Banfi lie somewhere in the 1950s when John Mariani made his dreams about wine come true, and his brother founded Castello Banfi in 1978 with the idea to diverge from the traditional techniques of wine production and to find new ones. There is a small glass museum within the castle. It documents the history of wine vessels from the simplest to the rarest ones. Brunello di Montalcino from Sangiovese grapevine is one of the finest wines in Tuscany. The quality mark is the DOC, or Denominazione di Origine Controllata, a mark that guarantees the wine is from monitored cultivation. You can choose from the many noble wines of Banfi Castle and bring home whole boxes of liquid Tuscan memories. And of course, before that, you can personally taste and find out the quality of the local wines. Lucca is one of the towns in Tuscany that has retained its ancient charm up to the present day. It might be because the town is located a bit aside of the beaten track and therefore has been saved from crowds of tourists. The town lies in the valley of the river Serchio, some 20 kilometres to the northeast of Pisa and 20 kilometres to the east of the coast. Its fortification has 4 gates, the construction of which started in 1504 and finished in 1645. They are some of the most interesting gates in the whole of Italy. Today they are still well preserved and lie next to a tree-lined promenade. The town has 90,000 inhabitants. This small but open artistic and commercial town has precious historical monuments. For example, the Romanesque church of San Michele with its green and white marble facade. Here in this church, as well as in other churches here, worked a young organist from Lucca, who later became a musical legend because of his operas, Giacomo Puccini. His moving, touching melodies for the bourgeoisie of the Belle Époque are still fascinating today. Puccini, who characterized himself as a person with more feeling than rationality, created the lyrical, sentimental operas La Bohème, Tosca and Madame Butterfly. The floor plan of the Piazza del Mercato corresponds to that of a Roman amphitheatre, the outline of which is copied by today's houses. The square Piazza Napoleone, surrounded by plane trees, has a French atmosphere. A French landscape architect built the square for Napoleon's sister in 1799. While you walk around the centre of Lucca, you can admire the interesting harmonious mixture of Romanesque, Gothic and Renaissance architectural styles side by side. Since the early Middle Ages, the wealth of Lucca has been founded on production and trade with splendid fabrics. Inhabitants thank God for the wealth by building many churches. Many tourists call Lucca the town of many churches. One of the most famous churches is San Michele with its beautiful facade and large square, which used to be an ancient Roman forum. Not far from San Michele is the dome of San Martino, known for its wooden cross Volto Santa. The name Lucca comes from the Celtic Ligurian word luc, which means swampy place. Until Napoleon Bonaparte came in 1799, Lucca had remained an independent municipality. Elisa di Bacciochi, Napoleon's well-known sister, became a Grand Duchess in Lucca. Elisa wanted to rebuild the palace in the style of the residence in Versailles, and she had furniture brought here from all over Europe. When you travel through Tuscany, you should relax. And if you get off the main tourist routes, you will be rewarded with such views of beautiful landscapes. It's worth looking around carefully whilst discovering the unknown Tuscany. Everyone can find his or her own favourite place where the thronging crowds of tourists in places like Pisa or Florence seem to be infinitely far away. But of course, you really shouldn't miss the chance to see Florence too. Traffic prohibition in the centre of Florence has returned the city and its squares to the pedestrians. There are a lot of tourists around Neptune's fountain in the middle of the Piazza della Signoria, while locals try to withstand the crowds of art lovers. After it was built in 1575, the fountain made a lot of residents in Florence angry, as they thought it was such a waste of precious marble. Today, nobody is against it anymore. On the contrary, the luxurious beauty of Florence might only lead to exhaustion from visiting all the sights. A cooling medicine, Italian ice cream. In one of the many ice cream shops around the whole Piazza della Signoria, you will surely find your favourite kind. The domed Santa Maria del Fiore, one of the most splendid churches in the world, is in the centre of Florence. Its red and green marble facade attracts all onlookers as well as lenses. If you climb all the 414 stairs up to the Campanile Vonghiotto, you will be rewarded with a unique view of the city. No other city has been home to as many important artists as Florence. Even today, this picturesque city on the River Arno attracts artists from all over the world who love to feel the inspiration of the beauty of Florence. The name Florence is closely connected to the universal artist who perfected Renaissance art, Michelangelo Buonarroti.
I find Michelangelo inspiring mostly by the fact that his force, the force that he had behind him in his painting, and just the desire to express what he thought was divine, so, and actually the sort of divine energy that came through him. They said his blood was paint, and there's all these rumors about him, but I think he was just incredibly inspired and by the divine and had to get it out.
The inhabitants of Florence look at the Arno, the river that divides Florence into two halves, with ambivalent feelings. Though the river brought wealth into the city, it is rather incalculable. In summer it can shrink into a small stream, but in winter there is a danger of flooding. No other European destination is as attractive as Tuscany. During the last 20 years it's become a paradise for lovers of Italy. Tuscany is a region full of contradictions, with fascinating landscapes and cities, a mysterious mountain world and virgin beaches without hotels. A passionate land that speaks to all your senses.